Hello. This is I'm Pete Montano,
I'm Tess Montano.
and we are in Stonefish Sushi and More in Cortez, Colorado, and we're going to talk about the evolution of the Pepperhead margarita.
Which you can get exclusively here at Stonefish.
And so I've been making margaritas for restaurant sales since 1983. We at our restaurant in at Francisca's. And
Right, I wasn't even born yet. I was born in '84, so I'm the later edition.
Yeah, so, and whenever we first started them, I was in Denver, and I went out with my sister, and we went to the Rattlesnake Club in Denver. And I don't know if the Rattlesnake Club is still around, but they had an excellent, at that point in time, was probably the best margarita I'd ever had. And I got talking with the bartender, and I noticed that they made them in volume. They didn't make them one at a time. So I asked him for the recipe, and he gave it to me. Well, whenever we moved Francisca's from Monticello to Cortez, then we could sell margaritas on a regular basis. And that's where we got our recipe, and that's exactly the recipe we used for many years. There was a couple minor changes, making the blue margarita, but
They were famous. People came from all over for Francisca's margaritas. They were, for the time, they were absolutely special.
they were good. Then something happened. Tess went to graduate school in Italy.
Yeah, just north of Venice. I lived there a couple years.
Yeah, and Lori and I went to visit.
Yes,
and
I
she
had to
took us
take them
around.
to my favorite places, and so Oslo is a very small town. It has a small, thriving downtown scene that I loved as a student. And my favorite place was called Bacaro, and it was a very small restaurant. Everything was handmade there, and what was really special is they had these infusions like this, these glass canisters with apples and fruit, and it was the most wonderful limoncello, handmade, that I had never had limoncello before. So for me, it was illuminating.
Yeah, that was my first introduction to limoncello. I don't think I'd ever really even heard of it until I was at Bacaro in Oslo, and they gave me some limoncello, and then also a drink that they called a scorpione,
Oh, those were good. Yeah.
made with
It was-
limoncello
Yeah, and
and-
sorbet,
and
right?
sorbet. Well, it wasn't sorbet, it was
Prosecco.
and prosecco.
Yeah, those
But
were delicious.
it was later on that we decided to, well, let's talk about the cellos. So,
Wow.
so the cellos, we have limoncello here,
Here's the orange.
and this one here was started in 7/28, so July 28th of 2020. So it's a year old.
Yeah, and this one's December 18th of 2020, so it's getting there.
So the aging process is critical for a good cello.
We didn't realize, I don't think at the time, Bacaro had the best cellos because they were handmade, because they were done like this. And when we came back to the United States, we bought a bottle of limoncello, and we were very excited about it, and it was terrible. It was really not what we had enjoyed at Bacaro.
Right. So then we found out, we figured out that having that handmade product was much richer, much deeper.
The
than we could get
flavors are just gorgeous.
Right. So so after some experimentation and Tess going over and talking to the old guys.
They taught me how to make cellos, and so we actually made a batch of limoncello when I was there, which you guys tasted the second time you came over.
Right.
And literally, it was a thing hiding in our closet. For 4 months was our initial time. Now we stretch that out. We've discovered the more time we can give the alcohols to drain out those essential oils from the zest, really the better your finished product gets.
Right. So there's a couple little secrets that we do, but essentially these are lemon peels, and they're aging in alcohol, and then from there, that's when we start to make our cello. This is the starting point. The finishing point is right in here, And and this is what you would get if you ordered some cello. And those who have been to Pepperhead and ordered limoncello just on the rocks.
Exactly what we served.
This is exactly what we served there.
You smell it, you get all of those wonderful aromas from the oils.
Right. So it was then that whenever we started, Tess decided to open a restaurant, and we were talking about the margaritas, and obviously we decided, well, let's go with the Francisco ones. Well, we decided after talking that this limoncello, we could incorporate that and move it to another level. Take the margaritas and move them, you know, to a whole different ball game. So I took it upon myself, with Tess's help,
Yes.
to start working on the recipe, get the details down. And that's where I finally decided I needed some outside help.
Good thing we had friends.
So we had friends that would test our margaritas, and we would, and I'll give a shout out to Lloyd Johnson and Cheryl. They were some of our our very first testers,
Yes.
and Tom Polchansky, and
And
we
they
would.
were critical. They really were. They gave us really good feedback about the acidity, about the fruitiness, about sweetness or lack thereof. We wanted something that was balanced and tasty, but also we wanted control over every single aspect of these margaritas. So there was a lot to tinker with, really.
Yeah, so finally, you know, they would tell us different things. We tell them, please, hit me hard. It's okay. I'm here to make it better. And then finally I got it, and they gave rave thumbs up, and that's where we started. That's what we used, that recipe at Pepperhead.
Now I'd say that we're taking that evolution really a lot further here at Stonefish because, well, we're not running a whole restaurant. We can be very precious about exactly which fruits we use for our cellos, how long, like a year is, man, it's a long time when you decide you want a drink and then say, well, in a year we'll have a really nice drink. But we can do that here. And I think that comes back to a discussion we had about margaritas because they are a ubiquitous cocktail. You can walk into a bar, you can order a margarita, and they'll give you something that is tequila and citrus, which is the basis. But what we wanted was, like, our question was, can margaritas be exceptional? Can you have the most unique experience with a margarita? And I think a lot of people have different ideas about that. People will say, well, if you just squeeze fresh lime and lemon and some agave and tequila, that's a margarita. Well, ours are a lot more involved than that. But it all started with, I think, having this kind of base that's so handmade, it's so unique. These are the 20 fingers that make all of the cellos here at Stonefish. We touch every single piece of fruit, and we're fussy.
We're fussy about the fruit, and Brandon will attest to that. We'll say, no, these aren't good enough. The oils aren't right.
And it's not pretty ones either. Like sometimes, just like the ugliest, oiliest fruits make the best cellos.
So that's really one of the primary. No, that is the primary ingredient. There's some other supporting ingredients that I won't go into a whole lot, but that make the Pepperhead margarita at Stonefish so unique.
Exceptional. For